Hi, everybody, and welcome to the live chat. Today we have a extra special guest with us today. Thank you so much for being here, Joey. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
My pleasure, Carrie. As always, you've always been nice to me. You've always been good to me, and this is my pleasure, of course.
Well, I was in shock.
My pleasure, Carrie. As always, you've always been nice to me. You've always been good to me, and
I don't know if that's me or you.
That was me. Sorry, I muted it.
Well, the first time I met you at Aquatics, I was starstruck.
No.
So thanks for just saying hi to me back.
I recognized you, and I was like, I know her, but I don't know her name, and I don't know much, but she looks so familiar. And I'd kill myself. I wouldn't kill myself, but I'd regret it if I didn't get to say something to you, because I knew I'd come home and be like, that was the girl that I watch sometimes, and I didn't say anything. And so I try to say hi to everybody and hang out with everyone and remind them that the numbers don't matter. I'm still just a hobbyist and keep fish like you guys. I'm still kind of a nerd. Maybe not as big of a nerd as some people, because I think I'm kind of cool.
Well, I'm just amazed that I found a community on YouTube that is just awesome, that shares the same views and passions, because I didn't know. And it was my undergraduate project that brought me into the community, and that's how I found you. Oh. And that's why I have my Arowana, and why I realized you can fiddle with filtration, because I didn't know that you could. I figured you just bought a hang on the back, and that's what you got.
Good.
It was just all kinds of stuff that just opened up my eyes, and there's just fish that you kept that I never knew existed, that I just fell in love with, that it just went down the wormhole, and now I just love it.
Awesome. Yeah, same thing for me in terms of discovering YouTube, was discovering a community. But YouTube was a different beast back then. There was no monetization, so there was no nobody was competing, and you didn't care how many subscribers you had or whatever, because there's no monetary gain behind it. And one of the things that I miss about YouTube that I think that maybe one day will come back is that at one point you used to be able to go to individual channels, and they would be about something, and nobody would be kind of similar to another channel. They would all be unique. There was LA Fish Guy, Mr. Saltwater Tank, New York Stilo. There was Dustin's Fish Tanks. I mean, if you know any of those, they're all unique, and they still are. And then there was me, and I was like, I'm not specific about anything. What can I do? And then everybody liked my do-it-yourself stuff, which was 10% of what my channel was at the time. So I was like, all right, I'm going to be a do-it-yourself channel. And it kind of evolved from that. And it was really exciting. And it's still super crazy. I think that YouTube for aquarium channels, for me, I don't know how much longer this is going to go on for. I don't know what the next step for the hobby is going to be. I think that YouTube's oversaturated, and I think that it's really difficult to be on here. So I think these live streams are really important. So maybe it gets back to live streaming and community, because at one point I discovered there's a huge community on YouTube. I used to get 3-4 comments, but it was always the same people. And I started these little relationships with them, and knew what they were doing and what they were up to, and kind of remember their names. And so things have changed, but it's still exciting to an extent.
Yeah, I think I get more excited about talking to the people in the community, and then I forget that I need to post stuff myself, because I still feel like I'm kind of outside looking in, and I'm like, oh yeah, I do that too, because I just love everybody's tanks and what they keep, and I forget that I need to do stuff myself.
That's the special moment in being a YouTuber, is still enjoying everybody's content and wanting to make your own, and not feeling the pressure. And you clearly have a career outside of this, so you're not trying to make it a full-time thing. It would be nice if it paid for itself type of deal. But you're not pursuing I need to be a full-time YouTuber.
If it happens, it happens. If it don't, I'll still keep doing what I'm doing. Yeah,
same with me. I mean, before we went live, we were talking about you were saying about how many people watch and whatnot. And I'm like, that's still big numbers in my opinion. It took me 3 years to get 25 subscribers. 25 subscribers. It took me 3 years of making videos. So, I could still appreciate those types of situations.
Yeah, I don't find myself entertaining when I'm in my own company, much less people watching my videos. So I'm amazed when I get views and comments. It just makes my day. I'm like, really? Like, that's so nice. Thank you.
How long have you been making videos now?
How long? 3 years, I think. A little over 3 years now. The first year, it wasn't anything. It was just point and shoot and hope for the best. And then I went down the rabbit hole of watching how to format and like put together YouTube videos. And then I put too much pressure on myself. And I was like, I didn't think anything was good enough.
Yeah.
Then I had to kind of take a step back and be like, at least I'm trying.
Yeah, I think you're doing fantastic. I mean, like I said, in the same amount of time you've been on YouTube, you've got almost 3,000 subscribers, and I had 25. So who knows where you'll be in like 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? Who knows? The only thing that I know is that we'll get better at making videos. You'll become more creative and more comfortable with stuff. My time has passed. My best time on YouTube was like 2 years ago. Like that's when I was most creative and different and, had the most fun creating the content. Now there's just so much pressure because there's so much focus on how big my channel is instead of like, just enjoying it and having fun. And, I try to do that and, I'm getting back into it and stop caring about a lot of stuff. But you're in a great place right now. And I think you're doing fantastic.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it. I'm kind of jealous on how you shoot your videos, honestly, because you seem like you just walk in, you're like, I'm going to shoot this today, and this is what's cool, and you don't, like, get nervous.
I used to be really good at it, though. I'm not as good as I used to be. My videos aren't as good as they were, and I know it. I'm fully aware. I'm very self-aware.
Like, by the time I get in the mood to shoot a video, I'm like, now I got to do my hair. I got to put on some makeup. And by the time I get that, I'm like, now I'm tired.
Well, I shaved my head for the longest time, so I didn't have to worry about. I looked the same whether I had a shower or not. Like that's the benefit of being a dude. But yeah, I get that. Like you gotta put your face on and get your hair done, and put clean clothes on.
I know, because if I'm not shooting a video, it's iffy. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, so a lot of the times, my favorite videos that I like to make are like storytelling. Where I'll bring you through a course of events that happened. And, I find that like fascinating to watch. So those are my favorite types. The worst type of video I make is like updates. You can see like I don't put a ton of effort in them because I just don't want to do them, but it's like I'm hounded to do them. And I got to bring people up to speed before I do the videos that I really want to do, or they're going to be completely lost. But the storytelling ones are my favorite. And the way I create those is really simple. I don't even think of anything. I just like a sentence comes to my head and I build an entire video around a specific sentence. Oh, if you ever hear me say, this is when you know I'm having fun with the video, or when it's like one of the videos I really liked making, is when I say, let me explain. I've heard that. Now, like, those are my favorite. Even in editing, I'm like, yeah, get it, Joey.
Yeah. I just enjoy all of them. I just get a kick out. I was watching the one you posted today, and I was like, oh, man, if I had more space, I would have so many more tanks I'm really getting into the larger ones, because for some reason, when I first started getting into fish keeping, I just had in my head that a 10-gallon was perfect and I didn't need anything else. And now I'm discovering that the bigger ones are so much easier. And I want to find more and more room in my house to try to find bigger tanks.
It's a tough place to be because, you can only dedicate so much of your house to your tanks. And then all of a sudden you have company over and they smell them. Or like maybe you skipped water changes for a few days, or you feed like a stinky food like NLS.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I don't feed NLS. It's not that, well, I feed some of it, but it's not that it's bad. It's just so stinky. And my tanks just reek of it constantly. So, I mean, there's only so far you can go with fish tanks in your house. the benefit to that is obviously with the gallery is like everything's separate from my house. But the downside is like I don't look at tanks all day. I'm not enjoying them as much as like you get to enjoy yours because they're right there. Maybe one's in your living room, you see it. I have to purposely go look at them and purposely spend that time out there.
Yeah, that's why I'm turning in my backyard. I'm adding more and more tubs in the backyard instead of adding them to the house.
Oh, well, we're doing summer tubbing, yeah? I
am. And
yeah, I think I seen a GIF or like a video of some sort where you're dancing because summer tubbing was coming. It was probably like a year or two ago. I don't remember when you posted that.
When was it? I think it was the beginning of this summer tub. I brought in all the little ones. I was so scared that the little ones were gonna freeze that I just put all of the little tubs into our pool room where our pool table is. So now there's summer tubs all around the pool table.
No.
Yeah. And then I have 2 300-gallon ones outside, and then I have the koi pond outside. I have the koi pond too outside. But I just keep adding outside. And I'm like, they breed. Like, I was surprised really how well they do outside. I was really nervous about it, but they do really well.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, fish and plants are not human made.
I know, but in my head,
where do you live? What state are you in?
Missouri.
Is that like in the middle of?
Right in the middle. Right in the middle.
So you have like decent weather. You get a little bit of snow and stuff. So you could almost do them year round.
Yeah, I put a de-icer in the pond, so it only freezes barely, maybe twice at the most in the winter. And that de-icer keeps it not frozen in a certain spot. So everything's good. But the koi and the rosy red minnows, they grow over the winter so much. And
you need to go in your backyard, get an excavator and dig a swimming pond. I'm telling you, it's the best thing ever. I love it.
The Chet Jesse's right here, and we want to put a lazy river in our backyard and kind of weave it in and around because I'm sick of pulling all the weeds. I was like, we need a lazy river. It'll solve all my problems.
Do it. I mean,
we want to so bad.
That's been the best thing about being an adult is like there's nobody that's going to say don't do that.
I know, especially because he likes fish now. He doesn't tell me no as much.
Oh, well, that's perfect. How long has he been keeping fish?
Oh, he's been keeping fish for what? As long as I've been keeping my YouTube channel.
Oh, so for years.
Yeah, he didn't appreciate it so much in the beginning, but now he likes it.
Nice.
He would give me a little bit of why do you want so many fish? But now he gets it. He really helps like with the filtration.
Tell him to build that lazy river or swimming pond. Guys like to do it. I mean, we don't know how to do anything, but we'll do it. We'll try it. It's actually a lot of fun.
Yeah, he's got some ideas. And when it starts getting warmer, we're going to start doing something, I know, because we both got the itch. And I was like, oh, this would look so great. Because we have a pretty decent backyard, so it's just perfect.
Yeah. Do it. Now, do you have bylaws that you need a fence around it or anything like that? Do you know of? Like if you have a swimming pool, for example.
The fence is already there.
The fence is already there.
Oh, you're laughing.
Mm-hmm. We're good. We're good. I don't think we have as many rules as you have to go through when you're building. What is it? Your new shed that you're building.
The problem with it is like I tried to follow the rules and I did most of the bylaws and I was threatened so many times by the government, like they're gonna shut me down, they're gonna put red tape on the door and all this weird stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
because they were watching my video, especially when my video trended the #1 world. I was like, okay, it's like they're kind of cool. That's cool. But it's a ton of attention and a lot of positive attention, but a lot of negative attention comes with it. So when I ripped that down, my old garage, I had to get a permit to rip it down because it was major construction. Then I had to get another permit to reconstruct what was already there, but it could be a little bit bigger. I wasn't allowed to upgrade the plumbing, or there was no plumbing. I wasn't allowed to upgrade the electrical. I couldn't be insulated. I wasn't allowed drywall. I was only allowed 2 light bulbs out there and like 4 receptacles. No running water. and especially no floor drain. So once that part was done, I had to apply for another permit just to get drywall. But the drywall had to be in before I was allowed to upgrade electrical. So I had to put all the drywall in, and then I had to get an electrician to come out, and I had to rip all the drywall down so he could do his work, put it all. But it was just constant BS for months.
It sounded like it, and I don't think I have to worry about any of that.
Yeah.
Maybe, but I don't think so.
Thousands of dollars extra because of it.
I believe it. It'll be worth it in the end, though. I'm excited.
Well,
it's gonna look good.
It also could have only been a certain length. It could have only came out. I wish I could have gone way bigger, but I was restricted by so many things.
Yeah.
I think the next big thing for me would, of course, besides like a lot of the bigger tanks that I have planned and whatnot, but like the next big thing for me, maybe in a year or two, is to sell and go bigger. Mm-hmm. Move out and, buy something else. I want a smaller house. My house isn't even that big. It's like really average. I mean, so many people go on Google Maps and they're like, I'm so surprised Joey lives there. People think I live in a mansion. I live in a bungalow. I live in a pretty small house.
You spend all your money on your fish.
Yeah, I got no money left.
Like, we're fish keepers. We don't have no money. We put it, what money we have, we buy fish tanks with.
In my shack.
Fish keeping is it's expensive. But I'll do it every time.
Yeah, love it.
Petro Man wants to know what you feed your discus.
What do I feed my discus? Okay, so the key to success with discus for me was I made a do-it-yourself food out of beef parts, spirulina, chopped up shrimp, all kinds of things. I put it into a puree and then flattened it out in freezer bags and froze it. And snap off a frozen piece, drop it in the tank. They would eat it. And what I'm talking about, the key to success is when they were breeding, I'd feed the parents the same thing as the fry would eat. So as soon as the fry were done feeding off of the fish slime or the mucus that the adults were secreting off their body, they could just automatically go to the regular food. So 2 days of seeing them eating regular food, that's when I knew it was time to move the babies out. And like 2 to 3 weeks later, the parents would breed again.
Discus are beautiful.
I was running a fish mill.
Every time I see discus in person, I'm amazed. But I don't feel like I have good water for them. My water is like
I think that you're overthinking it. Discus are so watered down right now, and they're so domesticated, and they're no different than most other fish. Like if you can keep angelfish, then you probably keep discus. So angelfish have that small mouth. They've been bred in the hobby for tens of years, for decades. They have that compressed body. They have very similar traits and requirements. And domesticated discus are just as easy, in my opinion, and based on my experience. And the only thing you want to stay away from, with like water quality wise, and you're worried about parameters and whatnot, is wild discus. Because those are the scary ones. Those are the ones that can be a lot more difficult to keep. But the pH of my water is 7.6 to 7.8 year round. It's hard enough to stand on. And I bred discus. I think I got like 1,000 fry before I called it quits. And the only reason I called it quits is because I flooded the local market. I was getting taken advantage of. People were like buying discus for cheap because I wanted the local hobby to get their hands on some discus and experience them and have fun with them and not break the bank. But they were taking them and reselling them on Craigslist, and we call it Kijiji here, or taking it to the fish store for store credit. So I was like, come at 4, they're not here till 6. They're late, or they have to cancel, or it was just constant problems. And they wanted to tour and they wanted to hang out for hours. It was too much. I was like, I can't be selling these fish anymore. I don't want to do it no more. But so I sold my discus for an average of $20 each, which is really cheap. But I had 1,000 of them, so $20,000, and I sold them all in a month. But I invested a ton of money into the breeding project, as well as I had to pay taxes. You can't dump 20 grand into your bank account and not claim taxes. Like, I'm not going to jail for my fish.
No. We all have our limits, I guess. Unless, I mean, I would probably think about it for an Asian arowana. I would probably be like, well, I might have to think about it. Be like, it might be worth it.
Well, here's a fun fact. I know more Americans that have Asian arowana than I know Canadians.
Really?
I know that there's probably 5 to 10 times more Asian arowana in the United States in private hands than there is in Canada.
Wow. They're beautiful.
They're great. And the ones at public zoos are like, or public aquariums are horrible quality. They're pretty big, but their quality is pretty low, but they've been confiscated. The thing with, if you get caught with one, you're looking at a $10,000 fine and I think like 5 years in prison.
That's awful.
It's equivalent to like owning a tiger. Like you can't own an endangered species.
Yeah, you can't. I wouldn't want to
want a tiger. So I settled for savanna cats. I got a couple of them around here.
Well, you have 2, don't you?
They're up there somewhere.
Mm-hmm. I have a friend that has one cat like that, and they're a handful. They're beautiful, but they're a handful. I got a regular kitten, and that's all I can handle.
I allowed raccoons into my house.
I bottled squirrels, but that's about as far as I've went with that type of stuff.
He's got all kinds of questions going on.
You got a question? Well, I have a question. I talked to you before the stream, and I have my arowana here. So I'll show the chat for a second. But my silver arowana, you can't see it at all, but it's got drop eye on this front eye right here, really bad.
You get it on his other one too in a matter of time.
I'm sure.
Is he wild caught?
I would assume so. I got him from a fish store when he was maybe 4 inches long. So I'm not really sure. I just got it from
like a 50% chance if they're wild caught or not. The wild caught ones tend to not get dropped by as often. But the thing is like there's no scientific proof as to why they get them. We assume, and there's a lot of theories being, having bottom dwellers in the tank and they're constantly looking down. It could be, reflections. It could be their diet, etc. I think it's more related to their diet than anything. But it also could be genetically because a lot of wild caught ones simply don't get it. Now, what you don't want to hear is there is no cure.
I know.
That's what it's going to look like forever, unless, and I've done it, and you're not going to.
I know. I've watched the video like 16,000 times. I'm not going to do it.
It's a scary process, and it might not work. You can operate on them. And I just don't think it's if you've never operated even on tiny fish, just don't do it. You could kill it, sedate it. You might hit a nerve. You might even cut its whole eye out. This is the downside to a silver arowana is the drop eye and their sheer size. And the bigger they get, the uglier they get. What I would recommend you to do in the future, if I were American, which I'm not, I'm Canadian, so I get to have Asian arowana. I ain't got to deal with any of this. I would go with a black arowana. They don't get as big and they don't get black. They don't get drop eye usually. Or get a wild caught silver and cross your fingers. Or if you want an Asian arowana, get a Jardini. They're the closest looking arowana to it, but they are the nastiest. They're really big.
They're pretty mean.
Yes, little doughy swimming around in your tanks.
Well, see, when I first got him, he came with a tank mate. I had a feather fin knife fish with him, and I bought him as a set. They had to come together. But the pleco that I have in there didn't go so well with the knife fish and ate him. So I don't know. He seems like he's getting more aggressive since there's no tank mates in there, but I don't know if I want to take a chance of adding a tank mate. And I've heard like Oscars and stuff are good with them, but I think he's okay just swimming alone. But
adding tank, you put the ping pong balls in there, didn't you?
No, that's actually little food. It's little remnants of food floating.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of people putting in ping pong balls, the fish will look up.
Yeah, I've heard that, but I haven't tried it. But I have heard that.
Yeah. I just think it's genetic. I mean, I'd love to say it was diet because that makes sense, because what you remove from the behind their eye when you're operating is fatty tissue. But I mean, I think it's more genetic than anything. I think it's like just being trapped in a small box. But when you go to the zoos, you see silver arowana, they got drop eye too. So again, nobody knows.
I enjoy them. We put them in the living room because that up there used to be the garage, and we converted it to our dining room. So I was safe with the concrete. For some reason, I was really nervous about the floor. And so when people come over and we eat dinner and stuff, he'll just come up and like stare at you. And I'm like, okay, I'll feed you. So he's always getting fed. But I was like, maybe I'm feeding him too much, but I don't feel like there really is a too, because he's always hungry. So I don't know.
Yeah, I know. And the thing is like that guy's going to live for about 15, 20 years if he lives his whole life. They're not jumpers so much as an Asian arowana. But the silvers, they will jump. And the thing is like they're a big, powerful fish.
He jumps. I promise you, he jumps just to get my attention. Yeah. I don't come in there for so many minutes or so many hours throughout the day. He will jump just to be like, come feed me. Because you know that sound when they hit the glass and that water sound, you know what they're something just jumped and my heart's racing. But I put stuff on the top of the tank. It's kind of like a catch-all. So I could add more weight because I'm just paranoid. I don't want to lose them from jumping. But yeah. But I had to show you that tank. And that contest video that I did for that contest, he was in a 55 gallon then. Now he's in an 180 gallon. So he's gone from a 10 gallon to a 55 to 180. So
yeah. And he'll do okay in that 180 for a while, but ultimately we're looking at a 360, which is 8x3x2. But I mean, it's so expensive and it's so takes up so much space and it's time consuming. And I think what will happen is you might upgrade actually, because black arowana is technically like 2 to 3 times more expensive, but you might want to upgrade to a black arowana at some point, and maybe donate him to a local aquarium or something like that.
That was my plan in the future, because we have 2 actually that's open. We have one in St. Louis and we have one in Branson now, a big aquarium. And then we have one in Springfield. They're all like 2 hours away in any one direction. And that was my long-term plan, because it's really hard to find. I thought it was honestly easier to find bigger tanks, but it's not here. So the long-term plan was to eventually donate them to some kind of aquarium in the future, because there's going to be a point that it's just too big.
Too much.
But it's been really enjoyable, because I went from always keeping guppies, to having a silver arowana. And I was like, well, I'm going to jump in and we're going to do this together.
You know what's next for you? And I know you've been contemplating it. Stingrays.
Yeah.
Good luck getting out of that mess.
I know.
It's a mess. It will change your life financially.
Thank you, Joey.
We were watching all the, I love them. And especially like when you guys talk about like the pups, I'm like, oh my gosh, I bet those are just the most adorable.
That is their official name for when stingrays have babies, is they call them pups.
They're just going to be the most adorable thing you've ever seen.
Yeah. So a lot of people are like, are your rays going to breed? I was like, yeah, they will eventually. Oh, you're going to sell them? I'm like, probably not. I'm just going to have like hundreds of stingrays because I'll never sell them. They'll only have like anywhere from 1 to like 8 at a time. But, if I hate selling fish. I hate it. I'd rather give them away or donate them. I don't want to sell them because in my opinion, I'll buy that fish for $10, but as soon as I own it, it's like $1,000 fish. I just like it too much, or it's just like I think it's worth way more. I feel like I got to steal. That's what a lot of times where I'm at a pet store and I'm looking at tanks and I see fish for sale. I'm like, I gotta get them. They're so cheap. I gotta get them. And like sometimes I don't even have that amount of money to get them. But
I've been avoiding the fish store during this Christmas season. Like because I'm like, I don't need to buy myself a Christmas present right now because I know if I'm going to go in there, I have a 40-gallon upstairs that's empty, and it's all I can do is just be like,
A 40-gallon breeder?
Uh-huh. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I need a Christmas present for myself.
I think I have an extra background. I should give it to you. I should ship it down to you.
Well, thank you. That would be awesome.
I'll double check and then I'll message you. I think I do. I don't know for sure. I know I have 4 of them, and 4 of them are being used, but I think I might have like an Aqua Decor background that's like for a 40-gallon and it's extra. I don't plan to use it, but I don't know. So don't get your hopes up, but I'll have to look. I have a pile of them because they replace them and they cycle through, and people are like, you should give them away. I'm like, I don't want to give them away because I want to use them eventually. I keep everything. My entire basement is filled with fish equipment and aquarium.
Well, I upgraded. I used to use like those plastic pitchers that you would just tape on the back of your aquariums. And then I discovered that you can paint them black. And I was like, that's my background. I was like,
black backgrounds?
Yeah, upgrading it from those just like the cheap background, the pre-done photograph that you just tape.
Yeah. I thought they were cool at first.
I did too. I was like, oh my gosh, that looks so good.
It's so natural. It's like it goes on forever.
Yeah. Yeah. And when I discovered, for some reason, it never clicked to use paint on the back of your aquariums. But yeah, I like the black. It's kind of they're all painted black.
The black, a lot of things make them stand out. You might want to start experimenting with like different shades of blue. But one of the colors that like looks really interesting is green.
Really?
Yeah, like really interesting. But I'm colorblind, so I don't know how to pick out the colors or what's going to look good. But I'll see, like when I'm traveling and I go to like fish rooms and stuff, like some of them have green tanks, and those ones always look the best to me.
Well, this one behind me right here, it's almost green just from algae.
I gotta. Well,
the shrimp like it.
It's interesting because people like, if you have a tank with a ton of algae, people are like, oh, you don't know what you're doing. But that's exactly what's supposed to be in an aquarium, is everything, including algae. Sometimes it can get out of control, and sometimes it doesn't. I'm experimenting with a tank right now, one of my 120s. I let this hair algae get out of control, and then I added pothos to it because I want to see if pothos will wipe it out, because I watched it happen with Rachel. It hasn't happened yet. I'm going to give it maybe another month, but then I'm going to have to take action, which is manually scrubbing it out and whatnot. But I got a bunch of Amazon puppers in there, like 20 of them.
Oh, wow.
What happened there was they were for sale and somebody pre-bought them at the store. So I was like, well, who bought them? And they're like, so-and-so. I was like, oh, he's a good friend of mine. I was like, you know what I should do? I called them up. I was like, you know what we should do? I should take them to my house, fatten them up for you. I'll get them off live foods, and I'll plump them up, and then you can have them back. He's like, no. He's like, I put in like $400. I was like, I'll pay it. It's like, I'll pay your bill, and then I'll sell them back to you. And so they're kind of sort of mine, but they're not really mine. So that's why I don't film them. But then I was like, babysitting with puffers.
Do you still have those Tetra that you were fattening up? You have some like that weren't really yours, but you were fattening up too. Like,
no, they were the glow lights.
Yeah, something like that. You were testing something.
What was that? Okay, so there's this. So Canada, all fish medications have been banned. If I get ick, there's nothing we can do. I can, because I can call Fritz or whoever I want, and they'll ship it directly to me. But the rest of the hobby in Canada is out of luck. So there's this scientist out west that came up with this medication that is incredibly strong against bacteria, but in higher doses, it will also treat ick. So I was like, my local fish store, he's like, can you tell Canadians about this? I was like, no. I was like, I need to test it first and make sure it actually works. He's like, well, do you have any fish that are sick? I was like, no. He's like, oh, well, there's no sick. He's like, of course, the only shipment that we have, none of the fish have ick. He's like, I'll make some calls. So he calls us this distributor, and they have this tank of glow light tetras that have ick. And he ships me to my door like 20 of them or 15 of them, however many it was. And they came and they had ick, and I added them to my tank, and then I made sure they had ick, and it was pretty bad. I treated them, got rid of it, etc., and it worked. And I still have them. He's like, I want them back. I just keep forgetting about them. They're in one of the quarantine tanks, and they're not mine. I don't show them on video too much or anything. But, I was like, okay, so the medication works. And that's interesting. But laws are going to be changing in Canada soon where we'll be able to have some medications again. So in the meantime, well, I don't know for sure. I mean, it's just small talk among the industry. And that's the best part about being me is like I get in behind the scenes and like I'm so nosy. And nobody, like if you were like to ask these questions as an average hobbyist, like nobody would talk to you. But like I'm Joey from YouTube. And they're like, oh. I'm like, yeah. And I'm on the phone, let's make it conference calls.
Well, I will tell you from my experience, every time I use a medication, I try to use it as directed, and I just make things worse. So I just stick to catappa leaves, salt, and some heat. And so far, knock on wood, I don't have like drastic problems. But when I do, it's like one tank here and there. And that's been my kind of go-to thing right now. And it's been working because every time I go out and I stock up on all the erythromycin and all that stuff. And I do something wrong. And I either kill everything or I just make things worse. But so far...
Thing about mistakes and, if a fish dies in your care, it sucks. And being a YouTuber, it's humiliating because you're supposed to be the expert. I tried to eliminate that years ago by showing things that happen. But you really don't learn anything until something bad happens. Otherwise, it's just checkmark boxes. Okay, did what you said. You said da-da-da-da-da. Everything worked out. Fantastic. I'm great at keeping fish. That's not the way it works. Because I talk to a tremendous amount of like YouTubers and like a lot of people that look up to them. But when you get them in person, I'm like, you don't really know what you're doing or what you're talking about because you just don't have the experience.
Yeah.
So things that happen and things that go wrong are way more valuable than things that go right all the time. So I mean, like when you first get into the hobby, and when I first got into the hobby, I messed up tanks with the cycling process, and I was killing fish like I couldn't keep them alive for 3 days when I first got in. And as soon as I understood, like, why are my fish dying? Oh, it's the nitrogen cycle. Oh, there's bacteria. As soon as you start learning, and then you discover it, and you fully encapsulate yourself into that mindset, you become far more successful. I'm teaching people that like how I kept fish 10 years ago. Like nothing's changed. I'm still doing everything the same. Like technology can change and the way we present it and the way we talk can change, but like the fundamentals don't.
Yeah, I've been keeping fish my whole life. I had fish tanks in my bedroom growing up. And this tank right here, I'll show you, I'll scoot it over. This one right here was my dad's tank in our living room growing up. That because I watched your videos, we resealed it. But growing up, like I just did what my dad said. I did my water changes, but I didn't know why we did water changes. Like I just topped it off and I would go to the fish store and find anything that looked colorful and cool. And I'd come home and stick it in that one tank. And that's what I knew. And it worked for the most part. But growing, like now, I'm like, I had puffers and rope fish, and I had a gourami and just random stuff. Yeah. And now that I've gotten into the YouTube thing and talked to everybody and just, made friends, it's like, that's why we do that. And it's that I kind of want to help people with, because I kept fish for 25 years before I went back to school, and that ecology class was like the water cycle, the nitrogen cycle, all these, and I was like, oh my gosh. It all kind of just clicked, and I was like, oh my gosh.
Well, I actually have a bunch of questions for you that I kind of want to dive deep into, and I don't think you talk about it with your viewers. It's nothing crazy or telling or anything like that, but I gotta have a bathroom break and then we'll do it. I'll let you catch up on the chat.
Jesse can talk for a second.
All right, well, flip it over. We'll get back to it. Thank you, Fish Room Fever. That was awesome for the $2 super chat. And that was the most cool, sarcastic comment I've seen in a while.
Just thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it.
Multi-tank addictions. When he gets back, I will ask him about if he got your poster. And then I will ask him about his just biggest comment I've seen through all the chat is everybody wants to know Joey's favorite tip.
Favorite tip?
Just hobbyist tip. It's all been about the same question. So we'll go favorite hobbyist tip, multi-tank addiction. Did he get your poster? And go from there. And then we'll see what kind of questions he's got for Carrie.
Yeah, I'm an open book for the most part. Once you get me talking, I get nervous at first and then I get to talking and then I don't stop talking.
We will make it work. Yeah. Jess H. I miss good old mom and pop fish stores. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of those know more about the fish they have there that they're shipped in than the big box stores.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. There he is. All right.
I got a question.
You got lots of
I
questions.
was gonna say your merch is actually really good. Where's he going?
I don't know.
Take over. I told you.
Well, Chris from Multi-Tank Addiction wants to know if you got his poster
From Dallas,
from Dallas Aquashella.
Probably, yeah, it's somewhere. I've got a massive storage container with like all the stuff that like fans send and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
I should have it. Yeah, I should have it somewhere. The problem is like the gallery's changing so much, and I've been doing so many different. I don't know where to put it all, but I have an idea. I've got something big that's going to happen in my basement, like I mentioned earlier. But I want to get back to the question I had for you. So your channel name, ScienceGal Aquatics. So I know that you were in school for a little bit, and it was rather recently. I think that your channel name actually has something to do with your education, right?
Yeah, I went back to school for my biology degree. So I have a biology degree. And the goal is to go to grad school for freshwater biology and continue learning about all of like the cool aspects of freshwater. But right now there's no spots in the graduate program at the school I applied for. And it's been 3 years now. So I'm looking into another program. Hopefully I can get into that one out of Florida. It's online, but it looks like an amazing school. And it has a lot of immunology type classes when it comes to fish health. So that's the plan. If I can get into a graduate program.
So you can get your master's?
Yeah, I want to get my master's in
freshwater. And then you'll be Dr. Carrie?
I don't know. At this point, I just want to get into wherever will take me as a student.
That's pretty cool.
I kind of feel like I get so much education just being part of the fish tube that I'm like, if I don't eventually get in, I'm still learning. But if I get in, that would be awesome.
So you did your first 2 years or 4 years?
4 years.
You did 4 years and you still want to go back?
Yeah. Yeah.
I went back to college this year too.
It was hard.
Yeah, I became a full-time student.
It's challenging, but it's worth it.
I hated it.
My teacher hated me. My teacher hated me. He told me that I was the worst student he's ever seen. I couldn't write. I have like no potential, but I know a lot about fish. He hated everything about me, but I was like, you know what? I'm still here.
What a dick.
Well, I didn't come in early and talk to him before class. I have children and everything. So I was always there about 5 minutes before class started, and it was from 5 to 10 in the evening, and it was 30 minutes away. So it was just challenging.
Yeah. I did really well, but I just don't want to continue on with what I'm doing. I got into a course called criminal justice. Because I wanted to someday work with troubled youth or teens at risk type of thing. And I felt like, I could have an impact on them because I was one of them at one point, and I know what they want to hear and I know what they need to do. But upon taking the course, I was like, oh, this is to like be a cop or, be a correctional officer. And nothing wrong with that. It's just not what I want to do. But I did like the psychology side of things. It helped me understand myself a lot more, for example. studying like a bunch of things. But one of the things that I found with being a YouTuber, first and foremost, once they found out who I was, it was really weird for me. They're like, "Oh my god!" well, they knew I was a YouTuber, but they didn't know like that I was like over 1 million subscribers type of thing. That was pretty fun for them. But one of the things that being a YouTuber and talking so much, because I practice talking, I just talk on camera constantly and getting comfortable with it, is like I found that when it came to my presentations, I didn't need to know much or say much, just wing it, and I would just sound like so expert about it.
I can see that.
Yeah, it was so easy. I was like, "Oh, I'm killing it." And they're like, "Okay, so you can submit a paper or you can do it in video format." I was like, "What? Video format?"
Yeah, those criminal justice classes were interesting. I had to take an ethics class, and it was a criminal justice class, and I was like, those questions are hard because there's no right or wrong. It's like I haven't thought that critically in like 10 years.
Well, it's all based on like sociocultural differences, and that's something that I learned about was like just because you feel something and you view something, and I don't see that or view that, it's not because we're different. It's because that we've grown up in different cultures and different areas and experienced things in different ways, and so it was all fascinating to me because it helped me understand why I am the way I am. Because I'm like, I don't know who I will be in the morning. Maybe it'll be fun Joey and nice Joey, or maybe Joey's going to fall into a deep depression for months on end and act up.
Yeah, I've gone through it. I took a crime scene investigation class.
Oh.
And it's kind of depressing, but the teacher that taught the class investigated. I lost my brother a while ago, and he investigated it, and he used to show pictures, and I had to have a conversation to make sure that there was no pictures being shown during class that might be from a past investigation of a family member. So it was just a crazy class. And I was like, if I needed to learn about how to do something crazy, this is the class to take. And it started on Halloween. The first class was Halloween night. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is quite the class. But it was interesting. It was just 5 hours each night of criminal investigation.
Yeah. My daughter.
Thank you for the super chat, by the way.
My daughter wants to get into that crime scene investigation stuff.
Yes, I wanted to do my first attempt at college. I wanted to do my mind just went blank. The processing of the evidence. I wanted to work in the crime lab, and there was a crime lab that opened up when I was there. It was brand new, and that was my goal. And I wanted to work in that crime lab so bad, and life went a different direction. But it's a fascinating job. If she wants to do it, it's never, every day is something new. And it was just stuff that I never even remotely thought I would learn.
Yeah, it's all fascinating. And then the thing that like concerns me the most is the pressure that we put on our youth. Like my daughter's 15, and in 2 years she's going to graduate at like 17, 18 years old. And then she wants to go to college, but she has to decide what she wants to do for the rest of her life at 18 years old.
Yep.
I didn't know what I wanted to do till I was like 33.
Well, I'm 36 and I'm still trying to figure it out.
Well, I'm older than you. I'm like a grandpa on YouTube.
I know. I'm older than everybody. It seems like I talk to. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, all you have to do is like, oh, I'm older than you? Well, Joey's older than me. What month were you born?
November. I just had my birthday.
You just turned 36?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to turn 38 in like a month. I'm February 2nd, Groundhog Day.
Then you're with me, buddy.
Yeah.
You're on Groundhog Day?
Well,
no, the age.
When's your birthday? February?
May.
Mm-hmm.
But he knows how he can.
Yeah.
His son.
I got you.
Yeah.
By one.
Yeah, his son's 16, and
he's
we're
already
going through the. Huh?
Jesse's already 38.
Here. Yeah.
Yeah.
38.
You can
Yeah.
only see the side of your face.
Yeah. Yeah.
My buddy Brandon looks just like him,
Mhm.
and he doesn't. So long as you keep that beard, as long as you don't get no grays in it, get some just for men, you'll always look that age.
Well, it's funny. He works outside. He does tree work, and they send him up north for the winter, and he gets icicles in his beard.
Tree work? You cut the trees down?
Yeah.
I used to be a pilot. He'd cut the trees down, and I'd have to pilot. I did that for a summer, and I hated it. I think I was like 14. I hated it. It was the worst work because you go into the woods when it's dark, and then you come out when it's dark. For the summer, the whole summer.
Yeah, he leaves for work tonight at 3:30 in the morning.
You make what you cut down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
You got to work fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, we did have a question too. What was your What was the question? Best tip that you have for new hobbies?
Best tip in the hobby overall.
Oh, overall.
That I mean, everybody kept asking for tips. That's been the trend running through the trap. But it was just, what's your best tip?
Well, I'm asked that all the time.
I was saying,
and I feel like people want this exotic secret tip, but it's have a complete and full understanding of the nitrogen cycle. Understand what they want, understand what it needs. And with that, you can keep anything. That's it. Because once you
yeah.
What's that?
That's a good tip. I mean, that's the ultimate.
The most important thing in the hobby is the nitrogen cycle and understanding it and facilitating it. But I think like some people want to know about like water parameters, like especially new in the hobby, like what should my pH be? Because they go through the aisles at the fish store and there's pH up and pH down and test and test and test. And as they take these test kits home and they feel like a scientist and oh, it's not ideal. That's not what they have in the wild. Let me adjust it. So you got to think to yourself, what do you think your fish are going to prefer? A pH that goes up and then you drop it because you're adjusting it. Then you do a water change. It goes up. You know, what do you think they want? Something like this that's constantly all over the place and fluctuating, or something that's actually ideal or not? It might not be ideal, but it's not fluctuating. None of my fish live in ideal conditions. They just live in consistent conditions. Provide consistency. Simplicity and consistency is key.
Yes, I agree with you.
That's something I talk about in my book.
There you go.
Just in time for Christmas, if you need one.
Yeah, just
Today's live stream was brought to you by. Reminds me.
I know from personal experience, once I started to understand why I was doing the things I was doing and all the reasons behind it, I kind of got into that. I just wanted to make everything perfect, and I was trying to use this and that and this, and nothing was working. And when I just stopped using and just let them get used to my water, don't worry about the numbers, just keep it, like you said, consistent. And I keep all my tanks the same way. I clean them the same way. I water change them the same way. And I just stopped trying so hard and just kind of took a step back and let nature take its course. It doesn't need my help. It doesn't need my hands in the tank every day. And things have really turned around. It looks good. If that makes any sense.
Back when I was breeding discus, I ran, and this is horrible because I sound like I was like a Nazi, but I ran experiments on my fry. I wanted to know the importance of water changes. I wanted to know, does water changes impede their growth? Does it help their growth? Does the method of filtration help, etc.? So I set up these 6 tanks and I documented all of it. I've never made a video on this and I've never talked about it because I just put it to the back burner because at the time it wasn't do it yourself. So I used to do a bunch of cool stuff, but I didn't want to make a video about it because it wasn't consistent with what I was putting out for videos. Nowadays, it's really consistent. It would make a lot of sense. So what do you have you so water changes are incredibly important. How important do we think them? Do nitrates actually inhibit growth, and if so, by how much? Do you feel like when do you know you need to do a water change?
I don't really feel like I ever honestly need to do a water change. It's whenever I just think the tank looks grody. Because I was water changing every couple of days and all the time. And it was just, things were melting and my fish just didn't look really good. And now I just barely water change like 10% every 2 weeks. And everything's doing really well. And like this tank behind me right here, it has no filter. I barely touch it and it's crystal clear. Where this one, I tried to filter it all, and do everything, and it's a hot mess. And this one, like I said, I don't know if you can see it all that well, but there's nothing, no filtration. It broke. I just never got around to fixing it. Now it's been 2 years, and I water change very little, just every couple weeks, every 3 weeks, just not, because I was doing 50% water changes all the time and just nothing was looking good. Everything was just kind of melting back. So I feel like water changes are really important, but I felt like I was doing too much. I was just over cleaning way too much. I was getting in there with just razor blades and aquarium vacs, and it was just too much. So I feel like I agree with you. They're really important, but I feel like you sometimes can overdo it too.
Oh, of course. And let me finish. So I did these experiments with 6 different tanks, 3 different methods of filtration. 2 tanks would have one type of filtration. The next 2 would have another type, and the next 2 would have another type. And for water changes, they would do 50% every 3 days, I think it was. And on the tank below it, they'd get a 50% every like 10 days. And, depending on the tank, I was going to be able to measure the size of the fish and their growth and see what happened. And the results were interesting. It changed the way I took care of my tanks permanently. But this happened like 6-7 years ago, and I wasn't able to make a video. The definite answer is, do you need to do water changes consistently and constantly? Depends. Depends. It's a complicated answer. But I'm experimenting with the gallery for the past 3 years. Again, I've been filming things like from 3 years ago, and I still have the footage, and it's going to be a video eventually. I'm like, I don't even look like that anymore. I'm like, I put on 40 pounds because my metabolism finally decided to be like, haha, you can't eat what you want no more.
It catches up with all of us.
So yeah, it'll eventually be something, but I always find it fascinating and to hear what other people think and say, because I feel like there's a lot of focus, especially because I come from like the discus, Asian arowana, stingrays, water changes 50% every 3 days, period. There's no exceptions. But now that I've been doing it for 20 years, my opinion's changed. And I think that, like I said, it all depends. Like, you found what works for the tank down low, and 20% every 2 weeks is perfect. Who's to say you're doing something wrong? Everything looks fantastic.
Yeah, it's hard not to just constantly scrub on them. It's really hard, but it is everything in the tanks themselves, the fish, the plants, everything is just doing better I'm not trying to they don't need my help so much.
Carrie, look at your super chats.
I know, I've got to get to it, but I talk.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, IFG and Fish Room Fever. I'm not sure. And Tiffany White. Thank you guys so much for the super chats. I really do appreciate it. It blows my mind. I can't believe anybody watches me. It's all because you're here. And 2, just this community, again, I can't say it enough. You guys are just amazing. And
I always say that, what do I always say? That awareness is everything. So they might have came for me, but they're staying for you.
Well, I appreciate
that. Makes sense. So hopefully your subscribers will go up because they like your personality and they like your tanks and they want to hear a little bit more. And I think that's important, is like drop those subscriptions. I mean, it's free. If you don't like what she's doing, unsubscribe. It's not that big of a deal. People do it to me every day.
Yeah.
I've had days when like 10,000 subscribe to me, and I've had days where like 5,000, well, maybe like 1,000 unsubscribe to me. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I don't. It makes no difference. But I do know that you're probably not generating enough to support everything you do. With that said, can I see his shirt again? Because your merch is actually really good.
My mom made it for me.
Now it sucks. No,
Look, it's on my jacket too. I got it on my jacket. I got a jacket.
that is.
I gotta get my website up and going. I don't know what I'm doing with a website, but my mom, she's got a t-shirt press and like she makes coffee mugs, right? And made me this one. Mom loves fish. It's got.
Nice. No, I think that like when it comes to merch and when YouTubers are like designing their own merch, yeah, a lot of them come up with this logo and then they put this logo on everything, and that's cool because like I did that with DIY fish keepers. I don't like the way that looks anymore, but it's so iconic to me that I feel weird if I don't wear it. But then I started designing merch that like I want to wear outside of YouTube, and like that's exactly where your mindset is at. Like you're wearing that even if nobody else does, you think it's cool, and I think that's what makes merch great.
Yeah, it was fun.
This shirt's really comfortable.
I got really into like the quality of shirts out of nowhere. I was just like randomly into shirt quality, and we did this like last year, and I still haven't got the website going, but they're really soft. So whenever I get it going, I'll send you one.
You know, it's funny because IFG dropped $50 super chat, and I think that's worth my super chat. Mine looked like a lot, $100 Canadian. $100 is still $100 to me, but
it is
70. Like the exchange rate is so crazy.
I'm just glad that he got. I feel like everything worked out for the best for his channel. For IFG got hacked or something. I don't want to bring bad luck to it, but I'm just glad it seemed like it worked out. It's been a while ago, but I watch all his videos. I try to watch everybody's videos, and then I forget to make videos on my own.
I talk to that handsome bastard every day.
Well, tell him I said hello.
Yeah, just when I think he won't leave me alone, I'm like, what's he doing? What's he up to? He's one of my best friends, and I barely like him.
Awesome.
Well, I guess our hour's up. I guess.
Yeah, we've run out of time, I suppose.
But I appreciate you being here and talking to me. It always goes by so fast.
Yeah, it does. Well, anytime you need me, let me know.
Yeah, anytime. I'm just glad I get nervous. I've been wanting to ask you onto the live chat for a while, but I go to type it out, or I'll have a question and then I get nervous. I'm like, oh, he's probably busy.
Don't be. I mean, like that's why like people. A lot of people say like, oh, it's all gone to Joey's head. No, I've got more comfortable on camera because I've been filming myself for 12, 13 years, but it's not gone to my head. The numbers are are like intimidating you. It's like I'm like, why doesn't nobody want to talk to me? And it's the same thing. I always collab and I'll make these live streams with anybody. I don't care how big your channel is, so long as we can have an interesting conversation.
Well, every time I've talked to you and the few times I've met you in person, you have been nothing but nice, wonderful, and just full of wonderful information, and it's made the whole trip better. So thank you.
Good. That's exactly what my intentions were.
Well, thank you guys for being here, and thank you again, Joey. I really do appreciate it.
No, do I hang up before? Do I hang up now, or do I hang up
now? As soon as I get off I'm going to go make a Mad Dad and check on all the kiddos. So you can.
If you want, or whatever you want to do, buddy.
I'll stick around.
I will. I did want to tell everybody that after this chat to go check out Father Fish. He's up next.
Oh, is he live?
And then Susie.
I wonder if he'll let me on his live stream.
You might. I don't know. He usually drops the link in the chat.
He'll do craziness.
And then Q Aquatics.
My buddy Rico used to drop his live stream links to the chat until I started showing up, and he couldn't do it anymore. There'd be like 20 people.
Oh, everybody hit that like button and check out both of them for sure.
I like it. 55. There's 69 watching now. I mean, you guys can like it. Maybe they're not logged in.
Yeah.
All right.
Peace.
Well,
I'll leave you alone. Bye, guys.
Bye. Well, again, guys, thank you so much for being here. And go check out Father Fish, then go to Q Aquatics, and then go to Danikin Aquatics for the night's chat. So thank you, guys. Bye.